Hey guys, it's Alicia again. Today we're going to talk about cross-cultural differences. So one of the books that I'm going to be referencing is Cognitive Psychology In and Out of the Laboratory by Kathleen M. Galotti. The first thing I'm going to talk about is Galotti's definition of culture, which she defines it as attitudes, traditions, artifacts, and behaviors that may be categorized into a group. So, my main topic that I've been focusing on today is the cross-cultural differences. So, there are 5 main parts of cross-cultural differences. The first one is studies of perception. The second is studies of memory. Third, we have studies of categorization. Fourth, studies of reasoning. And the fifth one is studies of counting. So I decided that for this assignment, I was going to focus on 2 of them. And the 2 that I decided to focus on are perception and memory. So the first one that I really wanted to talk about is cultural studies, cross-cultural studies on perception. So this is pretty interesting to me because it all starts with our interpretation of our sensory stimuli and how our retina in our eye is able to tweak things to make them 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional depending on the way that our brain can process things. So the first thing was a study by Hudson done in 1960 and 1967, which shows that not all cultures see eye to eye on certain things. So the first one, there's a picture in the book that shows 4 different little pictures right here. So we have all different ones, and Hudson talks about how a person who may be working in the force for a while, not literate, doesn't have very much schooling under their belt, that both white and black people saw these pictures, these 4 pictures in 2 dimensions, but there are other people who had gone to school that were able to see these pictures in 3D. Around 1960, Hudson then argued that seeing these pictures in 3D was not due to schooling, but more to informal instruction and exposure to the pictures. So someone could be in the workforce for a while and not have very much school, but if they were exposed to this picture multiple times, they would be able to tweak things with their eyes to be able to see it in 3D rather than 2D. So a few years down the road, Dorowski started a study in around 1980. He took adults and children from Central Africa and did one part of Hudson's study, which was taking the pictures, but instead of pictures, he used lines. And these lines were 2-dimensional, and people were able to tweak them a little bit to make them more 3-dimensional. He found out that 80% of people failed Hudson's half of his testing, and half of them, when they used his lines, were able to create the 3D boxes rather than 2-dimensional images. So for me, that was pretty interesting because we see that even someone who might not be literate can just tweak something a little bit to make a simple picture 3D just by the way that they see it or they move it and can rotate each little thing. And then the other thing that I decided to look at was memory, because memory is a big piece of how people can remember where they're going, because everyone needs like just a little bit of storing, being able to store information with the chance that later it might come back, which is another definition by Galotti. So we see that sometimes people, they may cluster words, they may not be able to cluster words. So looking at words that are clusterable are things that may be in the same category or something around the same thing. So an example of 4 words that are clusterable: plate, pot, pan, cup. So all four of those words are normally in a kitchen. They can be used together to make things, to serve things. And then we have four words that are unclusterable, which could be bottle, nickel, cotton, socks. So you have these four words that may not have anything to do with each other, but is there a way that you can cluster them? Not really. So I decided to look up another article that may go well with these cross-cultural differences. And I found an article by Schwartz, Bodegarlu, and Gutches. This was an article about cross-cultural differences in categorical memory error. So this study was super interesting to look at as well because it was done in Turkey. And so you were taking Turkish culture versus Eastern and Western culture, and how the Eastern and Western cultures were able to influence the way that Turkish people see how words are clustered. So in this study, American and Turks were given different word banks. Some were clustered, some were unclustered. So what they did is they would read all these words and see if they were clustered, read all the other words, see if they were unclustered, and then they were asked to recall the second word from each pair to see if the words were clustered or not. Which, if you read a bunch of words, sometimes it can be harder to tell if they're clustered or not clustered, because you could have a fruit and a type of drink and a shoe and a sock and a tree and a plant and a bush. Who knows? A bunch of different things, but somehow they're all connected. So the study actually found out that Americans use categories to organize information like plants, water, flowers. All of those things need water to be able to grow. But the Turks suggested that culture can actually shape only accurate recall of certain words and memories, while some people may have a harder time connecting them together, which would create memory error. So really altogether, cross-cultural studies, there's things that connect and things that may not connect, but every culture is different, and it's just how each person can connect them to be one. Thank you for watching this